All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to session 2 of How to Buy a Football Club, an FCG webinar made for members by members. I'm super excited to get into this second episode. Welcome to everybody. Thank you again for taking the time to become the most educated member that you can and informed on all the things that we have going on. Here we go. Today's agenda, we've got key things to look for in a club when acquiring a club, how much clubs cost in different tiers. We'll revisit a little bit of what we went over last time, as well as give some additional information into that. And then we'll take some time for QAs to give you the opportunity to ask any questions, as well as present any ideas you might have. So let's get right into it. 4 key considerations in club acquisition. Number 1. So you got the financial health, which is the foundation of club stability. There's debt analysis, which is not just about the numbers, but understanding what they tell us about a club's past decisions, current health, and future potential. So analyzing the debt structure helps us identify liabilities, but more importantly, opportunities for restructuring and negotiation that can turn some potential pitfalls into platforms for growth. Revenue diversification is the art of building a robust financial ecosystem. So a successful club cultivates income from match day sales, broadcasting rights, merchandising, and partnerships. Diversification means that not all of the revenue eggs are in one basket, making a club resilient in the face of changing market dynamics and global challenges. Then there's the wage to revenue ratio. This critical metric measures the sustainability of the club's spending on player salaries against its income. An optimal ratio ensures that while the club attracts top talent, it's maintaining financial health, allowing for investment in growth and infrastructure. Then we've got cash flow analysis. So cash flow is the lifeblood of the club. It's enabling those day-to-day operations and strategic investments. So understanding the timing and amount of cash inflows and outflows of a club will allow us to plan for the short and long term. So ensuring that those are sustainable and growth-oriented before we even buy the club would make a club way more attractive to us. Moving on to the brand value and fan base, which is now the heart of the club. You got the global brand reach. So all the way up from the Prem down to the lower leagues, there's people that either don't live in the town or used to live in the town or discovered the town, discovered the club via people within the town or on the media. So how far does that brand currently of the club currently reach? Are there memorable performances that people remember? Even if, let's say, since we're looking to buy a historic club, it might just be that they won the FA Cup in 1967, but people around England and maybe around the world who are fans might know about this historic moment for that club, right? What is the local community engagement then? That's the club's foundation. And so engagement goes beyond match days. So partnerships, social initiatives, youth programs that enrich the community and build a loyal local fan base is what gives that deep connection with a club. So we're going to be looking to see what level of connection the people of the town already have with that club. Then there's the digital presence, right? A strong digital presence will be attractive. And so we can leverage social media, websites, online platforms to engage with fans, share club news, market merchandise. You'd be surprised at how many lower league clubs don't even have a website. Maybe they're just operating off of a Facebook, and different social media pages because the funding isn't always there for this, right? And so, or it's not always a priority, or there's some old school thinking. And so we were looking at this in 2 ways, because obviously it'll be a lot easier if we don't have to come and bring that to a club, but it's also an opportunity for us to bring a lot of value here because of us being a digital first organization. So while digital presence is something that is a key consideration for us being a digital first organization and already coming up with different digital tools and solutions, it might be something that impacts us a bit less than some of the other things, because it might actually be an opportunity for us to show immediate value to that current fan base. Take a little break on from the learning to just took a look at this joyous picture of Aitana Bonmati, who is one of the greatest footballers on the planet right now. And she is winning football. She has won for club and country almost every single award you could win, in Europe specifically, and then globally with the national team as well. And if you have not seen Aitana play, I highly recommend going and watching some of her highlights and then tuning into a FC Barcelona game, or when she plays for the Spanish team, because she is a master on the ball, and you will be blown away by her talent. So just shout out to Aitana, who is offering us a lot of joy and thrilling football. So back to the key considerations. We've got infrastructure, including youth development and investing in the future, right? So the stadium and training facilities is what will help us not only build and grow the team that we have already, but it attracts the talent, right? World-class facilities attract world-class talent. But more than that, they reflect the ambition and commitment to excellence. So upgrading facilities is a strategic investment that enhances player performance, fan experience, and overall club value. But we have to be mindful of how much we have to put towards that based on how much money we have. And so, of course, if there's a club that already has recent upgrades and an updated stadium and training facilities, whether it's owned or not, that'll be something that we want to look at. And then another fact is that most clubs in Europe, especially at the lower tiers, don't actually own the facilities themselves. And it might be the municipality that owns it, or other types of organizations that actually own the real estate and then lease it out to the clubs. And so that type of dynamic and relationship is going to be really important for us when we're looking at what club we want to acquire. What is the dynamic? What are those relationships? Is there ownership or not? Then the youth academy. The youth academy is a treasure trove of potential, as well as a thing that will give us some of the most heartwarming benefits that we'll see, right? Because of course, winning trophies is amazing, but being able to help shape young lives and create resilient, incredibly performing humans who won't all go into the pros, but maybe create a path for them that allows each of them to have a successful, fulfilling journey in football and beyond, will be such a fulfilling part of our journey. And so additionally, UEFA and FIFA and all of the national entities either encourage or actually mandate that their semi-pro and pro clubs have a youth program as part of their club. And so how good that currently operates and how well it operates will be instrumental in what we're looking at, right? But again, is another opportunity for us to bring something that might not exist as well to that, and already add value if a club doesn't have a youth academy. For us, it's better that they don't have one than they have a bad one with a bad reputation, right? And so we'll continue to look at the youth academies as a key part of the club acquisition. Then we've got existing partnerships. So strategic partnerships extend the club's capabilities and reach, right? Whether it's revenue, whether it's continuing to gain more fans by aligning with brands that already have attachment by fans. That could be local businesses or international brands. We have to see what type of partnerships already exist, how long they are, what the structures are, if those partnerships align with the values of Football Club Group, because we are such a value-driven organization. And then we also see it as an opportunity for us to bring incredible new partnerships to that organization. So the existing partnerships, it's not that they have to have incredible ones. if anything, based on the value we're going to bring to a lower league club, we'd almost like prefer minimal partnerships already existing due to the higher value we'll be able to bring to those partnerships. Imagine Wrexham, right? Now, we might not be Ryan Reynolds, but our story is arguably more feel good than Ryan Reynolds is even. And so the types of brand partnerships and revenue we're going to be able to bring in by brands who want to attach themselves to this story and this club is going to be something that we're going to be able to use as an extremely competitive advantage for us in these lower leagues. And so the existing partnerships, we want to maybe find a club where they're not tied into some 7-year sponsorship at some lower, revenue amount. And so that's why there's a bit of nuance with that one as well as to the value of what those existing partnerships are. And then the last key consideration we're going to cover today is the most boring, but the most important. It's the regulatory and competitive landscape. Navigating the football business is very, very complex because while it is a local system, it is within larger international systems. And so different than other businesses, we're seeing it now evenly, interestingly enough, with the lawsuit from some event planners and the US Soccer Federation, who are claiming they wanted to throw La Liga games in Miami, and the FIFA rules state that you have to play your national competition, your national league has to be within the confines of your country. And they have their own reasons for all of that, right? But then the US anti-competitive trust laws might say that you can't prevent somebody from doing something. And so there's very complex regulatory landscapes in each of the countries that we're looking in. Fortunately, the ones that we're looking in have pretty similar regulations, because they're all within the European system and then have to comply with the UEFA laws. But understanding the regulations will be crucial for compliance and planning, between what the financial fair play rules are and the transfer regulations and eligibility criteria, as we covered in the first episode, what makes certain countries more attractive or less. If they have robust frameworks already, it's a lot easier for us to go in there because we know what the rules will be and we'll know how to be compliant. Then there's the competitive balance, right? So analyzing the competitive landscape requires a deep dive into the strengths and weaknesses of the market trends, the rivals, and then also the top to bottom, right? So let's just talk about the very best teams in the Premier League versus the clubs in the 5th division. What is the disparity between those clubs? The top teams in Serie A and the 4th tier in Serie A in Italy. What is the disparity between those clubs and everything in between, right? As well as the competitive balance within the divisions that we want to get into. How hard is it to get out of Serie A D or C? How hard is it to get out of League 1 or 2? There's a lot to go into it, but we're ready for it. And fortunately, we've already been reached out to by various experts in this field who are like the KPMGs of the world, who also do this at the highest level. But these are smaller startup organizations. And when I say startup, they've been around and, they've worked with clubs like, Benfica and other, high level clubs. They've reached out to us to help us navigate this landscape, right? And understand and do some of this analysis, something from the perspective of people who actually understand football regulation at the highest level. So that was a lot of information. So we're going to take a little brain break again, as usual, to take a nice look at Napoli. This is just a beautiful landscape. This is my favorite club in Serie A. If we were raising 800 million or $1 billion, I'd love to buy Napoli, but hopefully one day we'll be playing them either in Champions League or within the Italian system if we happen to buy a club in Italy as well. So Look at these bright green lines here. These are the price ranges that we looked at in the first episode. So just to remind you, the green lines are the lines that fall within the range that we're fundraising for the most clubs. Because as you can see, there's certain leagues where we might fall to the bottom range of Serie C or Primera Federación, the Tercera, but for instance, the third league in England is already out of our price range. And so we'd be looking down in the fourth and fifth divisions of England as well for where our goal is for buying a club. To remind you, we're raising $5 million and hope to spend $2.5 million on the club so that we have extra reserves to immediately reinvest into the club. And so now we go to this new feature that is on our fundraising goal tracker on the member dashboard. As you can see, we have now checkpoints as well, because as we always said, our goal is to raise the full amount. And then if we don't reach it by our deadline, which is now December 31st, 2024, we will all either vote to continue fundraising for another few months and try to reach the full goal, or we'll buy a club for the smaller amount. And as you can see, all the way down to, $50,000 and up to, 500,000, $1 million, $2.5 million. There's options for us to buy a club at all of these different levels. But again, we'll remind everyone, we're not here to try to start a club at the lowest level. If we can, right? We want to get to Champions League. So the higher up that we start, the closer we'll be able to be to realize that goal. And so please refer to this. We'll zoom in a bit for, your screen, since it might not be so, might be a little smaller, but this is a zoom in to see that, from the 7th to 9th tier, 9th tiers being like the lower tiers, then up to, so these are amateur clubs, then semi-pro clubs, and semi-pro or pro. Now, when you say, oh, well, semi-pro versus pro, what happens is, the moment you progress up into the tier, you become qualified as these other levels. So there's levels of expectation, there's levels of money you have to put into the club that are different each time that you go up into the ranks. And similar to like why you might need a youth club, I believe it's the semi-pro level in which you start to need to have a youth academy program as part of your your program. So it's really great to see that there's checkpoints along the way and that we always have a path forward to buy a club as club owners. We're going to take a look now back at how many clubs there are in the divisions that we may be able to, explore. And so, in England, we did go up to the third tier here, even though there are a bit more expensive there, just to kind of show exactly the sort of the difference between the two different, the three different countries here. So that, already all the way down to the fourth division in England, it's closed off to only 24 teams, right? One group of 24 teams. Whereas in Italy and Spain, you see there's multiple groups and that are regional already, and there's more clubs. So we may see that there are more clubs for sale in Italy and Spain in the third and fourth division, especially as you see that fourth division opens up even more. There may be more clubs available in those countries just because there are more clubs in the level of division we're trying to get to. In England, it does open up in the fifth division, of course, and we'd have to go down one division. But the revenue in the league, as we've talked about in previous episodes, there are the clear advantages of going into, the UK and England, and being able to even go into the fifth division there. Next session, we're going to be going into why are so many clubs always for sale? Because that is a question that I've gotten a few times, is like, are there even, clubs for sale at that rate that we'll be able to definitely find one? And there is an unfortunate answer, to that. And part of the reason we even started FCG was because of the state of the industry and what is happening to so many clubs. And so sometimes they're not even, publicly known to be for sale, just months before folding. as well, right? And we've seen it countless times where fans try to come together to save a club, or plead to somebody to come and buy the club and rescue the club. So this happens far too often, especially at the lower levels. And so there are always so many clubs for sale, and we will dive into that in our next session. So it is now time for the Q&A. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and I'm excited to take some questions and have a great discussion with everybody. So here we go. We'll stop the recording now. Bye-bye.